Greetings, everybody. My name is James. I am from the internet, and today we are going to be talking about the tail wagging the dog. Now, ever since Donald Trump lost the election, got up on stage on January 6th, and then a whole bunch of patriots had a really neat sightseeing tour around the Capitol, which totally wasn't an insurrection, the Republican Party has been rapidly reshuffling and reordering itself, not based upon who's filling a power vacuum, but rather proximity to Trump and desired proximity to Trump, his bullshit, and his sycophants as we go rushing headlong into the 2022 midterms and the 2024 general election. Now, this, of course, has the fun, unintended side consequences of people on the very right in politics trying to one-up each other in the current right-wing outrage Olympics. And what happens is that this causes a feedback loop. And so people trying to come up with the shittiest, most outrageous Trump-like tweet of the day, constantly re-upping itself, is creating a quick race to the bottom. And of course, this race is being magnified and amplified by the click whores who profit by such things. So, what I would like to show you today is a specific example of a specific race and how just a couple of individuals merely flying around the country and signing a few pieces of paper and giving a speech or two can literally turn into a ludicrous conversation that hundreds of millions of people are forced into because it is inflammatory and it distracts you from the fact that these are all absolute shit gibbons. Here we go. This is the world's shittiest play in 3 acts. Act 1 started a couple of weeks ago with this. Ohio's GOP Senate contenders desperately try to out-Trump each other. It could hurt them. Ohio candidates scramble to kiss Trump's ring or another part of his anatomy. Days after the January 6th Capitol riot, Senator Rob Portman, a Republican from Ohio, announced he would retire rather than seek a third term, despite winning his previous race by 20 points and being credited with helping former President Donald Trump secure a victory in the state. Portman, who backed Trump's policies but was not an entirely avid supporter, blamed, quote, partisan gridlock for his decision. But amid a slew of retirements by other moderate Republicans, it certainly appears Portman saw the writing on the wall as his party went all in on Trump. The Republicans in Ohio want somebody who's out there giving a full-throated defense of Donald Trump all the time. And that's exactly what the Ohio Republican Senate primary campaign has to offer so far, for better or worse. Perhaps no one has a steeper hill to climb in winning over Trump's base than J.D. Vance, the venture capitalist and best-selling author of Hillbilly Elegy, who recently made a separate trip to Mar-a-Lago with billionaire Trump donor Peter Thiel to meet with the former president and presumably seek to make amends for his extensive past criticism. 2 quick points here. Number 1, Hillbilly Elegy, literally the number 1 worst ranked thing that Netflix has ever produced in the history of Netflix. So, you got that going for you. And number 2, this guy literally shit all over Donald Trump during the first 3 years of his presidency. And now he's trying to make up ground, kissing Trump's ass while putting out, gnarly tweets and all sort of shitty press releases so that he can start to appeal to these voters. Because again, in Ohio, there are no sane, normal, rational Republican candidates running for this Senate seat. It's literally just 6 people looking to see who can be the Trumpiest in order to get the Trump bump. And that brings us to Act 2 of our shitty 3-act play. GOP's race to the bottom, who can be the most obnoxious troll? Oh, I'm sorry, is it a question? Are you really asking me? I mean, looking at that picture, as much as I respect Ted Cruz's well-seasoned troll game, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene in there. I mean, she's like one of the top 10 most offensive human beings on the face of the planet. And I say that knowing full well that there's more than 8 billion people on this floating rock. So if you're asking, I'm going with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We start here with an update of our friend J.D. Vance and the rest of the Republican senatorial candidates who are all packed together in a racist-ass clown car going down the highway at 120 miles an hour with all the windows rolled down and everybody squeezed inside, just screaming racist shit out the window to like random passerbyers on the sidewalk. And if you don't believe me, just wait. It's a very apt description. The fight between Vance and the other Republican candidates, Josh Mandel and Jane Timken, has turned into a battle of who could be the Trumpiest. Vance's air of being a try-hard, compared to the more authentic racist pandering that emanates from Mandel, has left him falling way behind in the polls. Even moves like apologizing for past Trump criticisms just end up being a reminder that even though he's a hardline authoritarian, Vance is very bad at hiding his disdain for the members of the Appalachian working class who have not shared his good fortune. You know, supposedly his, quote, voter base. And so to gain ground, Vance has turned to a tactic that has become the primary form of discourse in the GOP post-Donald Trump. That's right, trolling. Woo! J.D. Vance, you have now graduated. Congratulations. You are now a full-throated member of a GOP senatorial race. Largely, the trolling competition takes place on Twitter, where Vance says annoying stuff in an attempt to attract liberal outrage and mockery, and ideally, to get journalists to write pieces framing him as a preeminent triggerer of the liberals. Oh, the libs. Look out, he's triggering the libs. Chick, 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 chick. You hear that, libs? That's me triggering you. He has also tried to frame support for universal adult suffrage in the U.S. as a matter of global oligarchy, an unsubtle head nod to racist conspiracy theories fueling the most fascist fringes of the GOP, and he pathetically joined in on the right-wing dunking of General Mark Milley for his comments suggesting that racism is bad. You remember that? Mark Milley, the U.S. general who said under oath that you should literally know things about all sorts of people and ideologies, even if you don't follow them. And then said, I've read Das Kapital and it doesn't make me a Marxist. And all of a sudden people went, you know, Matt Gaetz and, well, apparently our friend J.D. Vance. Yes, people like that who are offended by the concept of, checks notes, reading things. Now Vance, grasping for headlines, has started to argue that childless adults should not have the right to vote. The excuse for this is that the childless, quote, have no physical commitment to the future of this country. He specifically targeted Vice President Kamala Harris, Representative Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, Senator Cory Booker, and Pete Buttigieg as people who, because they are childless, should be blocked from the franchise. Notably, 3 of the 4 of them are people of color, and the other one is gay. So really, he's just doubly appealing to MAGA voters. Again, he's making up for lost ground, trying to be the most contemptible piece of crap in the field, because today, right now, going into 2022, being the most contemptible human being is what will more than likely win you a senatorial seat when Republicans are voting. And now this brings us to Act 3 of the shitty 3-act play, which, as I told you in the intro, was all about the tail wagging the dog. That's right. Donald Trump makes the Republican Party worse, then gets voted out. Then a whole bunch of chuckle fucks go out of their way to be the worst person on the face of the planet in order to get all the people who supported Donald Trump. Then they scream out the most ludicrous theories just to get the most outrage clicks, and then Fox News picks the winner of the outrage Olympics in the clicking for the day and decides that they're going to dedicate an entire portion of their show talking about the theory that was offensive and shitty, just to sort of put it out there that they're still the people you want to turn to when you want to hear about all things Trump. No, not those Newsmax people. No. You still want to go to Fox News. They're your source for all things horrible. Ohio Senate candidate J.D. Vance suggested last week that parents should be able to vote on behalf of their children now because the country will someday belong to them. You know, Republicans, often thinking long, on things like global warming and carbon emissions and fossil fuel. The Republicans, they definitely like to think about tomorrow and, the earth that the children are inheriting. It's their thing. Sorry, what? It's not their thing? Cool. Fox and Friends advanced his idea on Sunday, suggesting that Democrats who don't have kids should have less say in the democratic process. Quote, Vance is saying childless leaders are making decisions that are short-term in mind, not focused on the long-term future health of this country, because they don't have a stake in the game, said host Will Cain. Parents have a stake in the game. They have children, so give parents a bigger say. Of course, right about now, if, you're a pretty decently well-lit light bulb, you have already taken this argument to its logical conclusion, which is, but what about all the welfare moms in the inner cities who have 12 kids? Surely they're not suggesting that those people who vote heavily Democrat should get to vote 12 times because they have 12 kids, right? No, of course they're not saying that. All this really was for Fox News was a way to blow the dog whistle for another 20 or 30 minutes. It was some free content at the expense of non-white, non-Christian, non-suburban people. Of course, they're not suggesting that people with 12 kids get to vote 12 times because there's black families in the inner cities that have 12 kids. What they are suggesting is that white, conservative, suburban Christians should have more power, should have more sway, and are merely putting the idea into the heads of their followers. So yes, I know all my radical friends out there, you absolutely cannot stand the idea of voting and electoral politics. However, I just want you to know, I'm not bringing this up because of the party schism that's happening with Republicans. I'm bringing this up because this is a giant red flag. This is the constant inflating of far-right ideologies being pushed into the mainstream. So keep your eyes open, people, because this happened once before, almost 100 years ago, and we are rapidly approaching that point again, and history just may very damn well repeat itself. Until next time, my name is James, I am from the internet, and I am out. Peace.